All right, we are back. Raz,
back.
Nice shirt.
Nice shirt. Who bought you this shirt?
Yeah, you, Raz. Yeah, I wouldn't show you the back because it's not on camera.
So I can say that I'm an angel investor.
Yeah, you are.
I'm glad, one
I'm glad you threw some money in. Yes.
We're gonna send you. Don't worry.
Eventually, we'll make money and we'll get everybody a shirt. Yes. We're back and we're with Honey Mittal, right?
Yeah.
I think people know you. I know you from FinAccel, right? Credivo.
Yep.
Homage. Used to first job was Microsoft, which I thought was kind of fun. First tech job.
Yep.
You're from India, but you've gone to school here. Been here, I think, since
almost
you started.
20 years now.
Yeah, since you started NUS, 20 years. And then now, because I know some friends that are angel invested in Locofy, and
right.
I've been following the journey there. And in short, Locofy, like take your Figma, put it through your thing, and you have React.
Yeah.
It's
so pretty much front-end code for any framework you want.
Yeah. And I've been watching and reading the growth about it's pretty impressive. So we're going to dive into some of these things. And I think you're the first one we're having on that's doing AI in the product. So we can't do our wait 40 minutes to say AI.
No, it's been like a minute, man.
Yeah.
AI, wow, it's a breaking record.
Well, it's Locofy.ai. I have no choice.
It's a breaking record today.
I have no choice.
I like to break records, you know.
But I think that's cool because we can get into some of that, I think, and
awesome,
the language model stuff and everything. So I think we'll start off with kind of a controversial question.
Yeah.
It's not that you're not only in Singapore, which rather than us, how'd you get to Singapore? We know you came to go to school and then you built your career here.
Yep.
Why did you choose to stay in Singapore to build an AI startup?
Beside the fast line that you just told me before the show.
No, I mean, thanks for having me, first of all. I think this first question is obviously, it's a question we get asked a lot by investors, existing and new investors. We ask ourselves this as well. We keep going back to what, Singapore means to us. So I came here in 2005, so almost 20 years now. I spent more time in Singapore than my hometown. And I've lived my entire adult life in Singapore. But more importantly, I came on a scholarship that I think changed my life. So I come from a very humble, very, very humble background. I think if I didn't get a scholarship in Singapore, I don't know where I would be, honestly. So I think that scholarship sent me to NUS. It made me, connect with some of the best kids from around the region. And it also get me out of this mindset that we, at least back then in India, was you go to a good school, there'll be campus placements, companies will come and pick you up. But in Singapore, it was more of like, hey, you could be a computer engineer, but you can go and apply for any job in any industry, and you have to go and find a job, which I think opened up my mind a little bit. And I think it allowed people like me to excel a little bit. And I think, I just feel very grateful to Singapore. And I thought that part of it was being grateful. The other part of it was a little bit, in the last 10, 15 years, we've been told Singapore doesn't have the builders. They don't have the best tech talent. And we understand where people come from when they say that. But at the same time, I've worked with some of the most talented people in my life in Singapore. And we always felt we are here. We are here. We can build things. But rather than debating on it, we just go and prove that we can build something from Singapore. So part of it is a little bit of... it's like a slightly personal thing to me and my team members. But sometimes we do question whether we are being stupid.
And what do you think the things are that... Because and we've had Craig on, we've had some other people, we haven't shipped the episode yet, where we've had some pretty... Rob Beer was on, the coach, and we kind of had some pretty hard questions around B2B and how to build, and a little bit of a report card even on Singapore. But, you're definitely wanting to build a global product. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I don't even think you picked let's launch in Singapore. You just launch. Correct me if I'm wrong. Which I think is the mantra Raz and I talk a lot about is, there's probably places where you could get more engineers or you would have a different trajectory of funding. But when you really want to build something, just like if he would be in Israel or I'd be here, you can build a global startup from anywhere if you want to. Do you think that's working for you? And where has been the things that were more challenging than you thought by staying here?
I think if you'd asked me that question maybe 5-6 years ago, pre-COVID, maybe even 10 years ago when it was difficult to find funding in this part of the world. I think for our team, it was very clear we can raise money wherever we are. We were going to build a remote company, by the way, from day one. We were going to build it for engineers and designers, builders, basically. And we thought, you know what, engineers are everywhere in the world. We can build it from wherever. We're not going to build a sales team. We'll be just building a developer tool. We could be in Hawaii. We could be in Bali. Well, we just have to get the right people who are in there for the right reasons. They're technically savvy. They're in it for the right sort of goals as us. And we saw some products like Typeform and, like even Notion, for example. The founders actually moved to Japan to be able to focus from Silicon Valley. And there have been many great examples like Zoho from India, for example. We felt that maybe if you look at the numbers and ratios, yes, there's a higher chance of success potentially in Silicon Valley and more liquidity, more access to talent. But good builders can build from wherever if you're solving a real problem with the right people. I think there will be challenges, there will be nuances, but I think good people figure it out.
Your infrastructure guys in Alaska, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
That's what I want to ask.
Yeah.
Where are they located, all your...
Yeah, so we started off in Singapore, but our tech team is mostly Singapore and Vietnam. We have some people in India and Pakistan. We have someone from Philippines who moved to Toronto. We have someone in Alaska. We just hired someone in Busan who'll be flipping from Singapore to Korea. That's the beauty of it as well. I think post-COVID, it was clear you can build from wherever.
And you have an office here?
We have a virtual office where all my letters get forwarded to my
So you're 100% remote even in Singapore?
Remote. Yeah, we never got an office, yeah.
How do you do meetings and stuff?
We basically have usual stand-ups and everything. Slack is basically where we all hang out. We got something called Gather Town during COVID especially, which is like a virtual office where you have these mini characters. You can walk into someone's office and it starts a meeting. We had a launch room where we all go in. It had a rocket in there, and it would start like a call with all of us and like rockets flying everywhere. So we tried everything, but ultimately it came down to building a team where we could trust everyone, and we had clear, expectations that we don't care whether you work at 10 a.m., 9 a.m. We care what you launch and how good is that launch, and we're doing it on Friday. You could take Monday to Thursday to just muck around. On Friday, you're launching it. That was clear. So, yeah, we just brought in people who, were not just technically savvy, but also trustworthy. And I think through some pain in the early days, we also realized that once in a while, you'll hire people who misuse that sort of trust by being remote. They have like maybe side jobs or they're taking it easy and they have too many just excuses after excuses. So we had to be very, very clear.
My learning has been the ratio of maybe not quite hitting the mark in remote hiring is higher than face-to-face. It's just one of those risks you take.
We just got better at hiring the right people for remote. Like in the last 18 months, I think we've probably had one hire that didn't work out because of remote reasons. In the early days, let's be honest, when we were a small startup, you also can't just go and hire the best of the best. You go with, you still want to get the best, but like out of a limited pool. And I think we started realizing that when it comes to, like everyone grows to a certain point, and then there is this sort of chasm where it requires a bit of more than just working hard to kind of cross that chasm. I think that's where we realized that maybe being remote, we were also not able to help certain kind of people. So it won't be fair to bring in people knowing they won't last more than a year and a half. So we made mistakes. Not that everything has been smooth sailing, but yeah, we also are able to attract now some of the best people who just want to work from home for a variety of reasons. So yeah, we've just changed our interview process, but I think it's a lot easier to build a company from scratch, from day one, that's fully remote with clear intentions than to make that switch, I think. And there are days when we miss being in office, and that's when we just get an office for a day and get together, celebrate or do some meetings or solutioning, and then go back.
One of the things that I experienced in the 3 startups that I've been with is that company's culture is one of the things that are not less important with the product that you are building. And I think remote, 100% remote, how do you do that? How do you build this company's culture that we are connected, that we feel loyal, that we want to be part of something?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
It's a difficult one to answer, and I won't claim we've figured everything out. I will, however, say the things that have worked for us. I think everyone in Locofy is they may not speak a lot. I think we have this complex that, we are from Asia and we're kind of quiet generally. Like people from Vietnam in our team, India, Pakistan, don't speak a lot. But they respond when we call them out for saying, hey, look, most people believe we can't build this from this part of the world. And we may be stupid over here, but look at how far we've come, and it won't just happen. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So we got to give it everything. Like if you think you're working hard, that's not enough. You got to work smart, work hard, give it everything, take care of your team. You can't be the person that kind of drags everyone down. And we incentivize them through the right equity, through the right sort of. We also hire people who are only interested in equity, by the way. So we have rejected in the past very talented people who took an offer which was high on cash and low on equity, because that tells us why they're there in the first place. So yeah, it's just one of those things that we wear our heart on our sleeves. We talk to each other very regularly. We chose people who believe they can solve this problem from here, and we make sure we talk about how difficult it is and how many people think we will fail. And I think that's where maybe we've done really well, right? So, and we get together once a year. We do a offsite one full week. Nice. Where we're not going to work. That 1 week is for us to just get to know each other, spend a lot of time with each other. We end up working, sure, but that 1 week itself, I think, is good enough for us. And we do a lot of these video calls where we just hang out and just play games sometimes. Yeah, the leadership has worked with each other for a long time. We've known each other for a long time, but we try and make sure that anyone who comes in feels welcome and feels that they could be working with us. Just like my co-founder, myself, CTO, CCO, we've worked together now 10 years over 3-4 companies and still choose to work with us. We just try to kind of do the same for any new person that comes in.
Nice. I look at your journey.
Yep.
And now you've become a CEO. But it took you a while to get it. Do you think that you can say there are some tools along the way that assist you to be the CEO that you are right now?
Yeah. I never really thought I'll be a CEO, by the way. I don't know if you remember, Michael, when I was starting Locofy, I was actually talking to a few people and I'm the product guy. So here was the engineer. I'm looking for a person to go fundraise and do all the business training.
Yeah, there was almost a conscious decision of I don't want that role. Right?
Yeah. But I think for me, I did realize I wanted to build my own company a long time ago. So about 14 years ago, I built a taxi sharing startup that failed miserably. And then I built a sports platform that did really well with $30,000 bootstrap for 4-5 years. But these were all part-time sort of attempts that we realized we're good at building products, but not really building businesses. And that's why I went on the journey to work in real startups. And in 3 of the startups, Wego, FinAccel, and Homage, I was lucky to be the chief product officer very quickly and work directly with CEOs. And I was a sponge, basically. So my way was if I'm not ready, if I spend a lot of time with the CEOs, I'm smart enough to pick up the things that I need to pick up, learn from their mistakes, pick up from their skills. And I learned something from each of the CEOs. But when we started Locofy, I was not really looking at being the CEO. My first mentor and first investor in Locofy told me that when we landed on the idea of Locofy especially, he's like, dude, you don't need a business or fundraising CEO for this. This is a developer tool. It's all about the product. And he also gave me a lot of confidence by saying, you always think you're not ready. And every time I've thrown you in a position, you've just kicked ass. This is no different. Go and do it. You'll figure it out. And I was like, I don't know how to fundraise. But then over a weekend, that same weekend, I raised $1 million. Almost accidentally.
Check that box. I know how to fundraise.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, I think I can. I'll figure it out. When we need to raise more money, I'll figure out if I need to bring in someone. Then the next round happened very quickly. And then the next round happened very quickly. And I just raised $7.5-8 million without ever reaching out to an investor. And I figured that, you know what? Sometimes you need someone to believe in you and just push you, man. And most of the times, it happens to be someone you work with. And I'm glad I not only learned from all 3 CEOs, but I had Ross, the founder of Wego, to really push me in the direction. Yeah.
And is there something that you decided not to take for one of the CEO? You look at it and you say, hey, it's something that I don't want to be like that.
Yeah. And I will tell you, there are certain CEOs I was like, I will never be like that, and I'm now like that. So why don't I tell you the good qualities that I picked up from all three of them? There's obviously a lot of things I didn't pick up from them because I also know who I am. But like Ross, for example, Wego.com's founder, with him I just learned design and engineering, like how to build a great product basically, and how much attention to detail to give to design, engineering, data, and experimentation, for example. And that's also where I learned that I was actually really good at it because I grew really quickly in that company. With FinAccel, I think I just learned how you just go brute force and move fast. And sometimes the things that slowed me down would be like, oh, the product has to be perfect, pixel perfect. Of course, I've started Locofy because of the same eye for detail. But in FinAccel, I learned in the early stages, you just have to move fast and don't spend that extra 2 or 3 days perfecting it. If it's good enough, just launch it and go for high impact and let some fires burn if you have to let them burn. Focus on the bigger things at any point of time. And also how to rally the team together, I think was really, FinAccel is now one of the best known companies. And I was there from seed, Series A stage till Series C. It wasn't easy, but what I learned was just getting the right talent and setting the right clear strategy. Everyone should be singing the same song in the company. You over-communicate, you focus on the big fires and let some fires burn, basically. And with Jillian at Homage, I just learned the importance of storytelling. I think when she talks about why she started Homage and how the journey went, people listen.
She's great at that.
She's amazing at that, right? And as an employee, that was the reason why I joined, by the way. I was like, whoa, this seems like a very meaningful problem to solve and also a big business opportunity. And I know a lot of people join because of that. And especially in a startup, when you raise $1 million, $2 million, most people mid-30s, 40s they're not mucking around, right? They need a real reason to join. And you need to be able to tell your story, and it must be compelling, and you have to be genuine. And I just realized how that helped me with everything, with fundraise, with getting people, even with our customers. Started sharing on LinkedIn about why we started, who we are, and being very authentic about it. People respond to it. So I think with all three of these founders, I learned, certain things that I would never have done myself naturally. But yeah, I also decided to go with my own twist. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's incredible. And I think you're right in that some people never quite land their narrative, and then it is hard for them to be authentic because it's not ingrained to them, the story, right? And
I've seen with certain people who I've never worked with before, but they join Locofy, when shit really hits the fan sometimes, right? Every day in a startup is it's
always a problem.
Always, yeah. And when you ask people, there are certain times where I'm like, oh, I don't think this person it will stay after this. This was just too bad. And they stay. And when I ask them, hey, why, what happened? I thought I'd really lost you at that stage. And they're like, no, when this happens, we just go back to something you or Sohaib said on how you guys came from your backgrounds and started this, and you really believe you can do this from this part of the world, and you want to change that narrative. And that's why I stayed. So I think, the importance of storytelling is, just be authentic with your team members. They join you after taking a lot of risks. Anyone who joins an early stage startup is making a big decision. You just have to be open with them and over communicate on the why. Why are we doing this? Yeah.
I had a conversation yesterday with one of founders, and we spoke about it not just to create a new vision, solve a big problem, is that we're creating jobs for families.
Yeah.
You actually supply money for other families, you assist them to grow.
For
and
sure.
It's another mindset, not just building a company and a product, actually building families.
Our CTO at Wego used to be this guy called TN, who went from being the lowest level integration engineer all the way to CTO in 7 years. One of the smartest, hardworking guy I've ever met in my life. And he was always on my target list. I was like, when I have enough money, I'll go get him. He had gone on to become CTO at Techo in Vietnam, had 2 kids. I knew his wife really, really well. And when we were raising a round, I had an intuition, because there was one of the investors was like, hey, can we talk to someone outside of Locofy who can vouch for you? And I was like, you know what? I can combine these two and maybe attract Tien as well. So I did that, and Tien heard really good things from this investor, and he flew down to Singapore the next day with his wife. And he's like, I think I'm ready to join you. You have to now convince my wife. and I had known his wife for the longest time, by the way. They sat in my house, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing to me, man? And I spent the next 2 hours literally begging and saying, look, I know this is going to, like, you have 2 kids, they're quite old, and you're living a certain life, but I just need 2 years for you to feel this pain. Your husband obviously really wants to join. And he's just smiling on the side saying, yep.
Good luck.
And I had to talk to her, and I very recently, like, we hit some targets, and he had to take a massive salary cut, but we set some targets that if we start monetizing and hit a certain point, I'll bump you back up. And just last week, I had a call with his wife, because she's also an accountant in our team. And I was like, I've bumped up his salary now. I told you, give me 18 months. It's 16 months mark. I'm really happy. And then she just like started like literally saying like, yeah, you don't know how difficult it has been. So you're right. Our families feel it. And as much as you're creating jobs, you're also asking a lot from everyone in the team, and they
to make a sacrifice.
When we suffer, the family suffer together. Yeah,
it's tough. So switching a little bit to tech, because I think it's interesting that, and I don't know how complex this is to explain easily, but you guys so everybody knows in AI world, we have the LLMs, large language models, and I know you guys were using them, and you probably still are, but you also kind of went down to this journey of kind of building one for yourselves. I don't think you put it out there for other people to use. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, we haven't. Yeah.
But what was the thinking behind that, and how do you think that's going to factor into where you keep going with it?
Yeah. So in Feb 2021, we basically, like, for any listeners who don't know what Locofy does, we basically convert your Figma designs into code, front-end code mostly. The idea was the amount of time just spent writing that same code that a designer has just done on Figma, and still not being able to get really good results. 90% of the products out there are just average at best when it comes to interface. And we just felt it was doing the same work again in a different tool, in a different form, and we could automate about 80% of it. And in the early days of Feb 2021, we were like, yeah, certain things can be, a model can be trained. We can train a model to identify different rectangles can be buttons, inputs, date time pickers. They all look the same, but they also have differentiating factors which we can train a model to figure these things out and automate the code. At that point of time, LLMs were not as famous, although in our first version, we did use OpenAI's APIs, where we said, hey, look at the information on the button, and if it says buy now, then we can call that button buy now, rather than what a designer calls it, frame 1, frame 2, frame 3. So we never thought LLMs would be the answer to this problem. Although when ChatGPT, Copilot, and all this sort of movement happened, right? Like late 2021, early 2022, a lot of companies popped up in the same space saying LLMs are the solution to this problem. I disagree. And our team disagreed. But at that point, we were like, but we can't just be too quick to just say LLMs don't work to solve this problem. We kept building our own design models, which is very different from how LLMs work. LLMs are trained, or at least back then were trained on text mostly, right? So books, tweets, research papers, pretty much anything you give it, it tries to predict the next word. Whereas our design models, although they sound similar, were very different. They were on the understanding of what a Figma design really means and breaking it down into these different models that would do what a front-end engineer would be doing. For example, you first take the design, you have to first structure it properly and group things properly so that the layout works on desktop versus mobile, let's say. It's a different model that we built for that completely, which is more to do with understanding how 3 boxes should be grouped. Either they are one group or 2 groups, and should it be horizontal group or vertical group, for example. The other one is to identify, let's say, buttons, inputs, all these HTML elements, then identify them from different libraries. That is more to do with, pattern recognition, basically. The third one was to find similarities. So if, let's say, you go to a Wego or Wego.com, you will find these different hotels, different icons, and whatever. They essentially look the same. we break it down into a reusable component that has a completely different model. We just call all of these together our own design models. Obviously, we've started feeling like, can we build Locofy with just LLMs? And we had a team that went into that path, and we're like, you can get some code, which makes a lot of people believe you can solve this problem. But no wonder why so many of these companies that went down the LLM path are now closed. So we kept investing into our design models of breaking designs into code. But now we think when our models can convert designs into code, LLMs are actually trained on code. And we can add more logic to it. So for us, we don't say it's LDM or LLM.
It's always both. Right?
It's together, it's both. And that's why we joined the first accelerator, together with Gemini, just to do some POCs. And in next month, we'll be launching like 20, 30 use cases. For example, you convert your design to UI code, and then you say, make it accessible, make it work on 30 different languages, just based on English designs.
And you don't have to do all that because the LLM can do that
LLM
part.
can do that better, Or add logic to it. So if I see a repeating sort of component design, and I'm like, I don't already have an API, can you build the API for me? And LLM can actually do a fairly good job with that. So we think our design models have a big role to play in solving front-end engineering. But now we are kind of like also working on what can LLMs or LVMs or LMMs, right, multimodal models do. So we have two arms now. One is just keep scaling our own models. And the other one is, let's see all these new models coming up every day and see what we can.
Yeah, and I guess any value that they can add is just a net benefit to you because you don't have to build it. It's like almost like a superpower on top of what you're doing. Right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And we haven't opened it up for anyone, but we have had some no-code players, the drag and drop website builders, reach out to us and say, hey, when our users say, I want to use Figma, but I then want to build a website, let's say on one of these Wix or Webflow kind of websites. Maybe we can use your APIs in understanding, or your models basically to understand designs and break it into code and then make the customer continue on our platform. So that's not an area we're heavily looking into, but I think in 18 months from now, once we are happy with the results, maybe we give them a version of our models to be played around with. Yeah.
What's the biggest challenge, like in terms of use case, that you are facing right now?
It's the design optimization, like the design structure rather. So very beautiful design, travel website, Airbnb-like website. People just look in the middle of the design tool. The complexity comes when designers have just a flat design, like they don't group things properly. They're not doing consistent spacing. They're not naming the layers properly. They're not applying auto layout, for example. These are, techniques and tools that obviously designers understand. But oftentimes in startups, you're rushing. You do a design. You don't care about the design structure and how well documented your design is. Converting that to code for us is less about how well our models do, and it's more about how well structured the designs are. So we tried to kind of educate people, hey, structure your designs properly. We even did a lot of videos. But we realized that that's not a very scalable way. So we're now building our own models to convert unstructured designs into structured designs. And we know that's a problem that even Figma is trying to solve. They just recently launched something called Suggest Auto Layout, for example. So we might be partnering with them, hopefully, because at the end of the day, for us, that is the one problem if we solve it. And I'm 100% sure in this space, there's only one or two teams that can solve this problem. But once we solve that problem, I think we'll be ready to scale like crazy.
Are there many competitors in this?
Yeah. So when we thought of the going from design to code, we thought no one had thought about it. Of course, everyone thinks like it. And then we did some research and found like 4 or 5 players in 2021. And the very first question was, should we even build this? But the other question we asked was, well, if they exist, why are we not using them? Can I use them? Would I have used them in Homage or FinAccel or Wego if I thought any of them was good enough? Or the second thing I looked was, the product doesn't look that good. It's nowhere close to what my engineers or I would use. Then I looked at the founding team. And the second question was, can I see myself beating this team? And it was a very easy yes. Like it took us 3 to 4 hours to say, you know what? We don't ever take them for granted, but like at that point we were like, we are going to give this 5 to 10 years of our lives, maybe more. Right. If a really good team is already doing it with a 4-year advantage, we need to have a really good reason to also jump in. At that point, we didn't find any team, and even today, some of them are doing really well. But A, the market is huge. B, our approaches are very different. I think there's space for at least 4 or 5 decacons easily in this space, and one like really huge player. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's fun. I'm trying to think how you would frame up even if there was a few players, it is potentially such a huge market. It's like tooling in general, or it's kind of a limitless
The thing with engineers
TAM.
and designers is, you know how they are, right? Like Figma is dominant right now.
Yeah.
But designers and engineers sometimes they move to a different tool just because it's like, no one likes to say everyone's using React, and then there'll be this engineer who says, hey, I've been trying Vue or Angular, and it has something different about it.
Yeah.
Engineers and designers like choice. And it also helps us because a lot of these competitors do a lot of marketing, which we don't.
Yeah.
And a lot of the marketing is just letting people know there is a design to
product
code
hunt.
Product. Or there you go. And what engineers do after that is, there is a design to code plugin.
Yeah.
Let me search what else is out there. They will try everything. So our competitors sometimes are leading people to Locofy, and then the best product wins.
Yeah.
Simple.
Nice.
Yeah.
I will try to just bring a technical term in terms of sales. What you're doing right now is PLG. It's product-led growth, correct?
3 months back, that's what we thought we were doing.
Okay.
Today, 80% of our business is enterprises.
Okay.
In a very short, like 3 to 6 months period. I always wanted to build a PLG company, and we still are building that. It's just that I underestimated how big enterprises and just the inbound demand would be. And this year especially, I feel larger enterprises. I think maybe after sitting on the fence a little bit for the last 18 months to wait and watch, this year, one area with AI adoption they've talked about is engineering productivity. And the problem we are solving is very easy to understand. It's a real problem. We haven't created a problem just for the sake of it. And B, it's very easy to try. And you may or may not be from a design or engineering team. You could be a business guy or marketing guy. Everyone gets impacted by front end. When they see a beautiful design, and then they have to wait weeks, months, quarters
for it to come alive.
For it to come alive. So that really went like crazy for us. And before we monetized, which was just 3 months back, after we ran the product for 3.5 years for free beta. And when we monetized, we were like, hey, this big company came in, huge company. How did they even find us? And they're like, I like your product. I want to pay. And we're like, but we don't even have a sales team. Like, please do it yourself. And they're like, no, I need your help. And it happened like with 6 companies in a matter of a month. And we were like, okay, we just cannot say no to this.
Gotta go do it. Yeah.
Amazing.
Do it. And now we have close to 100 enterprises in less than 3 months.
Oh, wow.
It's been completely crazy. Yeah.
You might gonna need help soon.
I got help. I got a chief business officer who we thought would be our founder, co-founder at one point. So we have a great team. I'm very confident with the team here.
And where do you think it's going to go with, you hear so much stuff around AI and what's happening and so much investment. And I always tell people, like, if you think about how in your everyday normal life as a person, it really hasn't affected us yet. It hasn't.
I saw Brian Chesky saying the same today.
And I think about this all the time. Like today I just did 2 sets of forms for my daughter's going into primary school. Yes. And, sometimes the Apple stuff's pretty good, depending on how the PDF where it'll fill in but you're kind of like, it should be so much better. It's like my laptop has seen me do these forms
so many times.
And you would just think I could go, here's a new form. This one's for my kid, Miranda, get it done, right? So when I tell people the fact that it's not there yet just shows you that, no, there's probably even still yet not enough GPUs sold. I relate it to that because it hasn't gotten that easy. But in some areas, and I would say in development, engineering, what you're doing, AI is front and center now, whether you want to believe it or not. And I know there's always these things where people say, oh, like coders are getting lazy. And well, no, wait a second. You have people who couldn't really code before who can, I've been playing with Cursor is one of the ones I like.
Yeah, Cursor's amazing,
But I'm wondering where you fast forward 5 years, the whole stack from front end to back end is going to be completely different. than today?
I think the stack will be different. Has it already changed? I fully agree. I saw this interview of the Airbnb founder saying, like, how many of your apps are actually have changed in the last 18 months?
Not many.
Not many. How much do I myself use AI, for example, is like sometimes I use it for, writing some content maybe. Sometimes I use it for new jobs that I create on LinkedIn and I let the AI write the first draft. Not much, quite frankly. But I do believe that, look, in the last 24 months also, there's been an explosion of videos claiming, these guys saying AI will take your job. You can take a piece of paper and make an app out of it. So I think they've also been big claims. I don't know if the claims have been made by the people building those AI. It's mostly just excited people, excited early adopters.
Yeah.
So I think this will follow a certain adoption curve, right? Like we are in the hype cycle. I think people have now started already asking the question of how much is AI really, like, hey, how many of these AI companies that have raised so much money are actually making money? How many of them are profitable? What are the true use cases where it has worked? And it's coming to that point. And I think after that, only the serious builders who are solving real problems with AI will start emerging. So I do believe we are at that point where people have started questioning it. That is the case with any new technology, right? Like there's any new exciting technology goes like this. There's a hype cycle, then it starts going down, and then it truly emerges at a certain point. So I'd like to believe we are solving a real problem. I don't talk about AI as much as we're solving a design to code problem. I like to talk about the problem and the solution, and AI has a role to play over there. But there's no doubts in my mind that there are so many things, grunt work that you call in the design process, in the product management process, in the back-end process, cybersecurity. I'm not an expert in all the fields, but there is a lot where 70 to 80% of the initial work that you would give to an intern or, like, for example, I hate writing PRDs. I think in my last 15 years, I've probably written 15 pages. That's it. I like to go and just go straight away into design mode. And we build it, and then we write the PRD for the next guy if he has any questions. PRD is less of a, like...
Just for the ones that doesn't know what a
PRD is. Even I don't know, actually, product requirement document.
Retirement document.
Yeah, where you write down the stories and why you need... For me, it's like it's a problem. I can visualize the solution. I go on the whiteboard, draw it. A designer puts it together. And an engineer goes and says, these are the considerations. We go build it. And then the new PM comes and says, why did we do this? And we're like, okay, we'll write a one-pager for you.
Yeah.
But
let me explain.
Yeah, exactly. But I think... And same for the design process, right? Like there's so much that happens on a whiteboard before you actually do the designs. In startups, not as much so as in a big company. I think there are so many processes where I feel AI will play a big role in just cutting the grunt work that no one likes to do. It won't take away the job as much as it will still require someone who has to take that and take it to the next level. Like I won't take an AI produced design and make that my app. But I can use that to get buy-in from my
ideas
stakeholders. Correct. Yeah. And I don't have to build the entire app with AI. I do the core design the way I want it. But like if I'm building a wallet for, let's say, Homage, for me, the core part of Homage is how we deliver care. But a wallet and the transactions, do I really need to go and design it from scratch? I'll just ask an AI to come up with the best wallet transactions design.
Yeah.
I don't need my designers to spend time on the periphery. They should be focused on the core. And that's where we differentiate from, I would rather differentiate from my competitors, but doing basic stuff like login page. Do I really need a designer to do it from scratch? Of course not.
And well, I think also that most of the coders, software designer, they hate these jobs. Everybody's doing the same. They just want to get done with that and do the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Which is the new project.
Yeah. And software engineering is about, what happens when you click that button and you get a car in 2 minutes and you can see where the car is coming from. You know how much it'll cost you rather. You can change the temperature of the car and play your favorite music. But the amount of time spent on actually building the interface to even work the way you designed it, we felt 80 to 90% of it is grunt work. Not to say front-end engineering is just doing UI building, but UI building is a big part of front-end engineering. And that always is expensive and time-consuming. And the amount of times designers and engineers keep fighting. This is not how I designed it. Oh no, you don't know anything about how to build.
I saw it so many times.
Yeah, we just wanted to change that. It was our own problem. So yeah, I think AI will solve a lot of different problems for a lot of different users. But all these big claims of you can build an app from a page. Sure, show me one.
Yeah, and that's where, like, when you talk about your growth in the enterprise, we know the enterprise is not going to build an app like that anytime soon.
And also they will need help. So, you know, the Palantir, for example, model, people said it's not scalable. You can build an amazing product, and Locofy is actually super powerful, but you require so many things at different steps to go right. And we realize with enterprises, we are seeing more success because we have a implementation consultant, solution architect working with them, doing workshops and avoiding those situations, which a self-service user would just be like, it's too difficult.
Yeah, I can't get this to work.
I can't get this to work. This doesn't work. Yeah. So we also realize that that's also why enterprises is big for us. And I think for the foreseeable future, the best AI with the experts would give you the best results. Because most companies get these AI products, but then the people using it still require, that initial support. They require support. Exactly. So enterprises, I think, will see more benefit from AI than the regular consumer. For regular consumers like Perplexity, for example, a lot of people are using it, getting a lot of value from it. But in all the apps, I'm not necessarily sure. And I also don't know if consumers really realize if their experience has improved, was there really an AI behind it? Like if an app
I think there's these
well,
micro adjustments that are happening that, are little bits of magic that you probably don't realize, your keyboard thing and stuff like that.
How do you know if your Spotify playlist is not already using some of these advancements? They're not going to announce it and say, hey, this is done using an LLM. So I think in some cases, it may be already improving your experience, and the best AI should be just seamless, like a magic, should not be in your face. But I do think there still is a lot of work ahead for anyone building anything with
opportunity.
AI.
Opportunity.
And there's an opportunity, 100%.
Yeah. I'm going to shift a bit.
Yeah.
And I know you are a very active angel investor. Mm-hmm. What's going on over there?
For me, angel investments was purely for two reasons. One, I advised a few companies that ended up doing really well. And that I was like, hey, first time I thought I was lucky. Second time I was like, maybe I'm just picking the right founders and ideas in the right time. And then I started feeling like, because I'm now building my own company or I'm a CXO in 3 startups, I don't have as much time as I used to. So I still want to support these guys. How can I do it without my time? I just put in some whatever little money I can. And the first time was very difficult to let go of it was a small amount, 15, 20K maybe. But once it had happened, I think it just became like, hey, you know what? I'm going to keep doing this because I get to be on a hot dial with all these founders who I get to learn from. And I was like, look, instead of doing an MBA, I'm just going to put that money into these founders. And I help them a little bit, but they don't know how much they actually end up helping me.
You learn a lot.
You learn a lot. You learn so much from these founders, and it really helps when you're building your own company as well. So for me, it's like, it opened up my way I look at markets, for example. Because I go really deep into, let's say, a healthcare problem, I study it really well. But because I've now invested in a e-commerce company, a cybersecurity company, it just opens up the way I look at opportunities and how companies execute and how certain things work. It's like case studies after case studies, personally tailored for you through founders directly.
And what do you, both it kind of dovetails with the angel investing and the advisoring. Like, what are some of the common mistakes you've seen people made that you're like, hey, stop doing X? I
think it's just choosing. I think I've seen a lot of because I didn't like these ideas, I ended up not advising or investing. But I've seen a lot of people just solving made-up problems. I've seen maybe 4 founders solve this problem and they're very confident they'll solve it, and it just doesn't happen. Product research, a product manager needs research, so I'm going to build this platform that helps them collate all information from different sources and helps them make a decision. No, the best product managers don't work like that. Yeah. They understand the problem very well and they just go with the gut and they look at a little bit of data. I think getting feedback from customers is a little overinflated. I don't think the best product managers actually listen to just customers and do exactly what the customers ask for.
Just one of the things they do.
So I've just seen people trying to solve problems that the same way exactly that someone else did and thinking they can do better. So is one big problem I've seen. Second one, like I said, is just solving non-real problems. I'm building a Web3 gaming Steam. Like,
do you think some of that comes from, I mean, I always think of this as the I want to be a startup founder so bad.
Oh, yeah.
I've invented something
Yes.
that I think is a product. I think so because I'm just dying to be a founder.
100%.
And I have empathy for these people,
Yeah.
but I'm like, if there's no market, doesn't matter what you're doing, right?
Doing it for the wrong reasons is, and I think from 2019 onwards, I started seeing a lot more of that. Before that, I think it was mostly people who are like, hey, I'm super passionate about this space and I failed a few times and I'm going to do something about it. I've picked up some skills along the way. From 2019 onwards, because of the supply of money, I think, just so much cash, I've seen like someone from finance and a finance team in a startup saying, I'm going to do a crypto startup for gaming, and ends up getting $1 million on a deck without revealing the names of their co-founders because, hey, we are from this DeFi world. I'm like, who is, like, how do you even build? Tell me. I'll get an engineer and pay him $30,000 a month because he's a Solana engineer. You know those guys are going to fail, right? Yeah. Like, but the industry kept funding them. I do think, however, that's going away now. But yeah, like people doing it for the wrong reasons is definitely very easy to assess when you meet them. Yeah. I think in Southeast Asia, people I've seen like the ones that I didn't like were the ones that were either not solving a real problem or have a very ambitious problem, but they don't have builders in their team. I don't care about university degrees and all, but have someone who can build. Have a great engineer, even if it's just one engineer. And they're like, no, I will raise money, then I will find an engineer. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, nope.
Yeah, it's always the one like, I'm looking for my CTO. I'm looking for my
CTO like, is the biggest, yeah.
Good luck.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm going to shift a bit.
Yep.
And I'm going to speak about, what do you think about CEOs? And I'm going to take it in a different direction because our podcast is called The Generalist.
Yeah.
Generalist.
Yes.
The Generalist.
Yes.
And if you want to subscribe, I'm just joking.
Yeah. Please, though. We need subscribers.
Yes.
So do you think a CEO is a generalist or a specialist?
I think it depends on the stage and the problem. For the problem we are solving, I think a generalist cannot, or at least at this stage, doesn't add much value. It's just one more person sitting and doing nothing. I could, like, you could argue that I'm the CEO, I'm a product guy, product people are generalists, but I still think I'm a specialist product guy who's also doing a lot of other things that I don't like to do, finance, HR. So there is an angle of generalist you need. You can't just have a CEO who's just like, I'm just going to build models and leave everything else to someone else. But I think at later stages, let's say fast forward this 5 years, let's say Locofy is a $5-10 billion company. Would I be the right CEO? I don't think so. I really don't think so. And at that point of time, we might need someone who's more polished, can lead a large organization, and is a generalist. So, but at the same time, there are other problems that I've worked on in the past. Logistics, e-commerce, let's say healthcare, fintech. I think a generalist CEO from the get-go is probably better than a specialist. It's just because there's so much to learn in that industry. And especially, I think the best founders I've seen in like logistics space had nothing to do with logistics in their past. Healthcare guys were doing travel companies before. So there you need to be a generalist and like just absorb things and see it from a very fresh, pair of eyes. So I don't know if there's a real answer. I used to always believe CEOs are generalists because all my MBA friends would tell me that. But look at the best CEOs I look up to. Like Elon Musk I don't think is a generalist. I think he's a specialist. In the AI world, I think a generalist just cannot get an OpenAI from nothing to something. Give a $10 billion company to a generalist, I think the story may be a bit different.
Interesting.
So I think it depends on the space and it depends on the stage. Yeah.
Interesting. That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, and I think you kind of also described that it's the ability to learn and do things is kind of what I think is journalism, and you kind of have to grow into that sometimes because you're doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're specializing, but you did raise funds, you did hire people.
I'm approving every dollar that goes out of a bank account. I know. I'm approving leaves and putting in a leaves tracker just to save some money on a HR platform. So yeah, I have things I need to do as a generalist. I'm planning the whole offsite dollar by dollar.
Yeah.
But with Locofy, I think my background in product was absolutely needed.
Key.
And if I wasn't, like if I didn't know how to build apps down to the T, and like if I didn't understand how designers and engineers work, I don't think a generalist CEO would have given the right direction, even with the best engineers we have.
Fair. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Awesome. This has been great. We are going to move into our closers, but we just want to say thanks for doing this, and also
thanks for having me,
it's great to see you putting Singapore on the map, because
hopefully
I think
you already do.
You're already doing it. Because I connect the dot to like you're the Singapore startup who's going global, and I've always felt like, can we do more of this from this town? I think we can.
We can.
Yeah.
We can.
Hopefully we will. You're next on that one, Raz. All right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big expectations.
Yes. Too big? Like
No.
Let's go back. You're 20.
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell yourself?
So someone asked me that question.
Oh, cool.
And I'll give you
Darn,
the same
I thought
answer.
we'd be the first. Like,
I don't think I would go back and give myself any advice.
Oh.
I'm quite at peace with how things have turned out. Things were very difficult, I would say, growing up. But I think that's why I am where I am. And that's why I have this drive and I have an amazing team. I worry if I go back and give myself some advice, maybe the next
it's like the time travel movies, you might affect the future.
Yeah. Butterfly effect, right?
But he's the first to say that. Just by FYI, like out of the 20 we've shot or something, you're the first to say I wouldn't change, which is interesting.
My answer has changed. Like I've told myself, if I could go back to my 16-year-old self, I would tell myself things get easier, better. Don't worry, keep going.
Take physics.
But you know what?
Please.
If I told myself at 16 things will get better, take it easy, then I would take it easy. You know, so I wouldn't change a thing. I'm happy with where I am, and yeah.
That's a fantastic answer. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like you're working very hard.
Yes.
But what do you do for your mental, physical health, just to keep, your sanity?
Yeah. So when it comes to mental health, believe it or not, for me, the biggest decision I've taken in my life, especially for my mental health, was to start a company. Because I just realized after running startups that, I am very strong-minded on how I would do things. And there are certain things when you have a boss, you're like, you know what, not a battle worth fighting. And there are certain battles that you're like, I don't know if I agree with that. And it happened a few times, and I was like, if I continue joining someone else, it will happen. So for me, and that was the biggest, I would say, issue with whenever I've had when I felt like my mental health is not doing well, it was because of not being able to control a certain situation, where the deciding factor was my boss. Not saying that the bosses were...
No, but it wasn't in your control.
It wasn't my control. So I started Locofy, and I haven't been happier. Not saying that we haven't had issues. When you start a company, it's probably one of the biggest drivers of other kind of mental health issues. But that's where I got a coach to help me with the problems you get with a growing organization. And she's been super helpful in me realizing where I need to change and where I need to be at peace with who I am. So that's super helpful. And of course, like spending more time with family, we're building a remote company. That was, for me, I was like, I need to be there for my daughter. We just had a daughter early this year, and I get to see her every 2-3 hours, and not many people can say that, especially dads, right? So moms as well, right? Like in Singapore, it's the same case. So for me, it's like just being able to be with people I enjoy being around and do things that I enjoy doing, and kind of owning my own destiny by running my own company has been one of the biggest things. For physical side, I know I need to do better. But yeah, I do walks with my dog, I play with my friends. I'm super competitive in any sport. My body may not support that, but I'm super competitive. Yeah, just the usual stuff. Travel a lot, quite a bit. I've started singing with my wife. I play the guitar. My wife sings and my daughter dances around. So
nice.
Simple things in life, basically. Yeah.
Nice.
They bring joy, though. That's good. All right, last bit. Anything you read, watch, listen to that you would recommend or share?
So I watch a lot of biopics and I read a lot of biographies and autobiographies, usually sports, like anything to do with like a sports person that I look up to. Recently, I read about Yuvraj Singh. He's an Indian cricketer. He is a champion guy, like helped us win 2 World Cups. Doesn't get the credit he deserves, but he had cancer the last time India won, and he was the man of the tournament, and he played through that cancer.
Wow.
So just reading his book, and the next one is another Indian cricketer, Ravichandran Ashwin, and I'm watching, surprise, the India versus Australia series that's going on right now.
Right now, yes.
So yeah, huge sports fan, and I get a lot of inspiration from sports persons and people who overcome some sort of a issue in life and do well.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks.
This is great. Thanks, Honey. Good luck with the business, and we'll see you around Singapore.
Thank you so much.
Good luck. Yeah. And give us some stocks that we can buy in the future.
It's called being an investor, buddy.
Yes, we can talk about that.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.